Mackay! He's done it! He casts aside the mental demons to put the Blues in front. But right now he wants to win it for the Swans. In fact, it's not going to score. It'll land in short. And Freo, hold on. Fremantle claim the big scalp.
Phew. What a season. What a season the 2024 AFL regular season has been. Look, I know the bye between the end of the regular season and the start of the playoff, which they introduced a couple of seasons ago and is due this weekend, has polarized fans. So not the players who need that break. But, after the roller coaster season that we've had since March, it's probably timely that we have a bit of a weekend just to have a bit of a breather and just digest and look back on what has been a really, really exciting and competitive regular season. Because it had, hyperboles are, it's pretty common nowadays to label things the greatest ever, the best ever, but I think this 2024 AFL regular season possibly deserves that greatest ever regular season tag. Certainly, it is the best. Certainly, one of the top 3 OG seasons since the VFL became the AFL. Because look, even across the board, it's been really, really there's just been so much to talk about. Obviously, the big story off the field is that, you've got the excitement of the new team in Tassie, the Tasmanian Devils. No prizes for anyone who thought that'd be the new name. You've got the Tassie team, which I'm sure Hawthorn and Kangaroos fans are celebrating as well, because that means that they can say goodbye to Tasmania being their other home team, and they don't have to make that trip to Launceston or Hobart just to attend a home match. But putting that excitement aside, look, on the field there was just so much to cross from one to, well, apart from the Roos, Eagles, and Tigers, it's been very, very close. I mean, certainly, at one, of course, you had at one stage Collingwood, Essendon, sort of top of the table. Ultimately, Sydney just, finished the strongest, but, you couldn't say, while they did win the minor premiership quite comfortably, you can't say that they're necessarily streets ahead of the rest of the league. I mean, in fact, at times I could question, that there are times like, even against teams that are really fighting, like Freo and the Bulldogs later in the season, the Swans look particularly vulnerable. And so, look, I'm jumping into it early, but look, Callum Mills and, his merry men will certainly need to be on top of their A game if they are, this September, if they are to win their first premiership since 2012. But look, we'll talk about the Sydney and the other, those who will be playing in September in a bit. But first, we really should look back at the teams that won't be playing in September, as is the tradition with the Haters Guide. So 2024 was a bit of a sad way for the great Dusty Martin to bow out, after such an illustrious career with the Richmond Tigers. With the departure of Brendan Gale, who's off to the Devils, it really feels like the start of what could be a very long, painful rebuild for the Richmond Tigers. Look, they've brought in a new chief executive in Shane Dunn. But look, at the moment, it looks like there's going to be more outstandings for Richmond. You've got Baker, you've got record scorer Bolton, you've got Rioli, who could very well join Gale in the Exodus. But look, I mean, if there's anything, look, Richmond always is one. It looks like Richmond do have a reasonably good academy, and I think they could look at while it's difficult to, it's difficult to talk about the other yellow and black team in a positive light for Richmond fans, but, you look at the way Hawthorn have gone about, they've been irrelevant for a couple of years, but they've now suddenly looked like even surprise premiership contenders. So it just shows that with the right, if they have the academy and the players and the organization, that there is always light at the end of the tunnel, even if the road through the tunnel is going to be particularly bumpy, like the Homewood Tunnel. Just to save time, I'm gonna put these two dumpster fire clubs together, as it is really rather rinse repeat from the last 3 years. And in fact, I'm gonna do this for Adelaide, Gold Coast, and St Kilda because it's pretty much the same story. And and just for to save time, from the Roos, I mean, I guess it seems like the arrival of Alistair Clarkson has turned out to be a bit of a curse rather than a boon for them. Look, I guess it didn't. Last season he was he had those racism accusations that overshadowed him, and he was suspended, but came back to the job, and it kind of feels like that's continued to overshadow his time at his new club. And yeah, look, I guess where's the light and the end of the tunnel for North Melbourne? They've been, I mean, perhaps maybe they should have taken that expansion money because it is really. Financially, it's just hard. They just cannot keep their good young players, and they just cannot buy any players, and so it is just an endless cycle of being stuck in irrelevance. Having said that, look, I mean, on the flip side, they could be the West Coast Eagles, who are really one of the big clubs in the AFL. Look, I mean, they have for all the jokes of saying they should be in the WAFL. The West Coast Eagles are one of the big powerhouse teams that really have certainly underperformed through really, really awful management and recruitment and all that. And look, it is difficult at the moment to see whether they'll ever return to those heady years. I mean, certainly the decline has been quite alarming, and I guess, and it feels like they're just trying on an interim coach and. Just to steady things. And look, 2025, even 2026 looks like, 2 more seasons of record scores at Optus Oval, which is such a shame because, Optus Oval is would be the perfect grand home for the West Coast Eagles. Yeah, so as I said, I'm not really going to pour into too much time with Alec, the Gold Coast, with the Crows, the Suns, and Saints, because really, again, it is a little bit of lather, rinse, repeat for these 3 teams. I guess, at least, it's kind of been a case like one season they've shown promise, and at times these teams have shown promise. Look, Adelaide have shown, have put some good scores. Gold Coast have shown some promise at times. And the Saints, they have as they showed against Carlton, they have the ability to, be able to mix it with the supposedly big teams. I guess you have to remember St Kilda is still a reasonably small club, even though if they have delusions of grandeur at times. I mean, certainly Saints fans. But it's just, with the recruitment, the clubs that they are, it feels like it's going to be the same. They might be, pushing, they might be pushing on the 8 at one season, and the next they go back to 14, 15 and be nowhere near it. And it looks like it's just, as long as they keep losing their top young players, I mean, certainly in Gold Coast's case, that seems to be the perennial forever issue because let's be honest, no one really wants to stay. The Gold Coast is really like the retirement home for Australian sports, and no one really wants to hang around there. And look, they just got all these teams. As long as they keep losing all their top young players to the more sexy teams in Melbourne or Port Adelaide. They're just not going to be able to make that step to become relevant unless they can keep one of the 2 players and make a real decent run, just to get the momentum. You just can't really see what these 3 teams are going to, these 3 teams are going to make the next step. So that premiership win at Optus in 2021 seems a long time ago for the Melbourne Demons. It's a bit ironic how that, after so many years without premiership title, they have to go win one out interstate. But it looks certainly now that the D's are starting to begin their journey back to the abyss. Apologies for the puns here. And I think that will only get worse if Christian Pataka does get his wish and leaves in the summer. I mean, really, they are better off cutting him off. He clearly does not want to stay at the MCG. They are the MCG. Melbourne are the MCG. It was originally the MCC and the MCG's original home team. But look, Petrarca gone. it is at least a team with not a whole lot of options. I mean, Max Gawn's a club legend, but he is getting on. Bailey Frisch is could break goal scoring records, but if he doesn't have the midfield or the players around him, it is just really, really a big ask to expect him just to single-handedly lead to the Demons to any form of relevance. So yeah, it is once again it's not looking great for the Demons, but at least hey, we've got 2021 to remember. Yeah, so to the first of the three, I guess the three teams that kind of epitomize the season, Essendon. I guess Essendon pretty much for me actually epitomizes how crazy this 2024 season has been. Look, they've just, they continue to be the absolute roller coaster murder club. I can't use the other word here, but look, and certainly they showed a lot of promise. They were as high as second or close to the top of the table at one stage. And look, I mean, if the season was shorter, they would be a guarantee in the playoffs. But that's not certainly when they had that dramatic win over St Kilda, they were just looking like the future premiers. And they looked like they had sort of shrugged off all that, that drug scandal a couple of years ago that dogged the club. But yeah, look, I guess unfortunately the AFL regular season goes till late August, and Essendon just ran out of gas after hitting their highs. And yeah, it is difficult to avoid those repeat plane crash jokes, associated with Bombers, where they ran out of gas, the engines ran out of gas, and they plummeted to the ground. Just short of the runway. So but hey, maybe it could be the sign of things to come for the Bombers. Oh, Freo. It was pretty much handed to you on a plate by the Blues only a couple of hours before. They were at home against a Port Adelaide power team with only, who couldn't win the minor premiership. They were pretty much in second place. Given, of course, GWS had lost. And I guess maybe the pressure of flying the flag solo for the West got just too much to this really exciting but mercurial team. They are the absolute Jekyll and Hyde team. They can be brilliant on their day, as they did that against the Swans at the SCG. But yeah, ultimately they just had far too many games where they were just absolutely nowhere and I think the only reason they kept in contention was because the likes of Carlton, Essendon, the Collingwood, the teams above them just really collapsed at the wrong end of the season. And look, for Justin Longmire, look, like there is potential, and consistency is going to have to be the goal if Freo are to be back in the 8. And certainly, there is a project there, but I guess that is the lure of always players going east to Melbourne. But for now, look, I mean, I guess with the issues at the other Perth club, they remain the West's only hope relevance in what is an increasingly competitive AFL. Look, they're going to be the most loved club in Australia for as long as we're alive. Certainly in the AFL at least. But look, it is still kind of a bit of a surprise. It is still a bit of a real shock just to see the 2024 three premiers be this average mediocre in their follow-up season. Look, call it hangover from last season, but you really would have expected. Certainly Nick Dacos, who has continued to be brilliant as ever, probably playing better than he did last season. But the fact that the Collingwood Collingwood were out of contention with a week to go, just kind of shows you what a surprise how bad their form has been this year. And look, I guess fingers are going to be pointed. Look, again, ultimately hangover from last season's premiership win. It was a huge emotive win. But nevertheless, the Pies will always have the talent, and there's no doubt the Pies will be back on their perch sooner than you think. So what of the 8? Look, it is very likely that the Premiership title will move north of the Allen Black line. with only 3 Melbourne clubs, 4 Victorian clubs, if you include Geelong. You've got, for Melbourne, you've got the Bulldogs, you've got Hawthorn, you've got Carlton. Those 3 teams, I should say, let me rephrase that. The Bulldogs and Hawthorn are showing lots of good form, but I guess whether they have the power to keep up with the real elite teams remains to be seen. Hawthorn fans would like to think they're going to win the premiership, but I'm still not wholly convinced. And certainly when they have to play elimination finals, it's always going to be tougher. But yeah, it would be nice if the Hawks, certainly they lost 5 games in a row, and then to come back to do this is truly impressive. And they've got a really, really exciting young team. But it may just be a season too early for the Hawks, and I think the Dogs will just crash out again. Carlton Carlton. Look, they are they're there, even though they didn't quite get the job done against St Kilda. But yeah, I guess perhaps in a way, they get Brisbane. They might get they might get a chance to play. They will get Brisbane first up. Brisbane at 5 versus 8, and I guess. Carlton will have very good memories of that opening season game where they beat Brisbane with a last-minute goal. Carlton do have the talent. You got Josh Cano. He's talented as ever, but and I guess he has to. Is it time for him to show his true talents? On the other hand, the Lions will be out for revenge. So that's all I can say. You've got, and of course you've got the 4. Of course. You got there's going to be a Sydney derby, which I think could go any way. I think great Giants are, Giants this could be the Giants here. I'm going to put a big call out there. The Giants do have the talent, and I think, as I said, the Swans have shown that they're not exactly as invincible as the table suggests. And I think, anyone like Geelong, the Giants, Port could really upset Sydney. And of course, there's certainly... you got to think the final's going to be at the MCG. That's going to be anyone's game, and you might favour the Victorians on that day if one of them does make it there. For me, Brisbane, look, they've made it again, and they might very well be out to redeem for what happened last season. So they could be the team to watch. I'm gonna go. As I said, I'm gonna go for a Giants Brisbane final. Haven't worked out how that's gonna work out, because obviously it's gonna be down to whoever wins in the first weekend of the playoffs. So, but Giants Lions final for me. So it's going to be a New South Wales Queensland State of Origin final. But what are your thoughts on this AFL season? Has the 2024 regular season been the greatest ever? And what are you looking forward to in the finals? If you like this video, feel free to like, and don't forget to subscribe.